The city of Newark was never the most peaceful place, but what transpired tonight will be burned into its history forever. It began with an explosion, a deafening roar that shattered glass and set off alarms across the industrial district. Amid the flames, stepping from the rubble of a decimated military transport convoy, stood Emil Blonsky, the Abomination. His massive greenish-yellow hide glowed under the streetlights, his thick, armored body heaving with every breath. He was never one for subtlety, but this was something different. He had been hunting. For weeks, intelligence reports had whispered about something unnatural, a creature that had been sighted tearing through South America and heading northward. A biological nightmare, a living weapon beyond human comprehension. The military, in their arrogance, thought they could contain it. Transported through the United States under heavy security. But Blonsky knew better. Now, standing before the wreckage of the convoy, he saw the fruits of his labor. The chains were broken. The steel-reinforced transport pod was ripped apart from the inside. It had awakened. A deep, guttural growl rumbled from the ruins of the transport vehicle. Then, with a sickening crunch, the pod was shoved aside, and a hulking gray beast emerged from the twisted metal. Doomsday. Its massive frame was coated in thick, bone-like protrusions, jagged spikes running across its body like the armor of some ancient war god. Its glowing red eyes scanned the destruction, and then they locked onto Blonsky. A low, primal snarl escaped its throat as it took its first steps into the open world. Unchained and unbound, Blonsky smirked. Finally, a real fight. He didn't wait. He launched himself forward, his immense strength propelling him at blinding speed. His massive fist crashed into Doomsday's jaw, sending the Grey Titan skidding back several feet. But Doomsday barely reacted. No pain, no hesitation. Its head merely snapped back into place, and then its lips curled into a grotesque grin. Blonsky barely had time to react before Doomsday moved. The creature lunged, its enormous hand smashing into Abomination's torso with enough force to send him crashing through a nearby warehouse. The structure collapsed around him in a cloud of dust and steel. Before the debris could even settle, Blonsky exploded out of wreckage, roaring in rage. "I'm not some weakling you can just toss around," he bellowed. His massive arms tore a shipping container from the ground, and with a single heave, he hurled it at Doomsday like a missile. The gray beast simply swiped it in midair, reducing the metal to nothing but shredded scrap. Blonsky charged again, but this time he fought smart. He feinted left, then twisted midair, delivering a bone-crushing elbow to Doomsday's ribs. The impact shook the ground, the shockwave rippling through the asphalt. For the first time, Doomsday staggered. Encouraged, Blonsky went on the offensive, his fist becoming a blur of destruction as he pounded into Doomsday's torso. Each blow echoed like thunder, sending shockwaves through the city. Cars flipped over, windows shattered, and power lines snapped under the force of the battle. Then Doomsday roared. It was unlike any sound Blonsky had ever heard. A deep, otherworldly bellow that shook him to his core. And in the next second, Doomsday moved faster than anything that size should be able to move. A clawed hand gripped Blonsky's face and drove him into the ground, embedding his head deep into the concrete. Doomsday lifted him up and hurled him across the cityscape. Blonsky crashed through 5 buildings, his massive frame leaving a trail of devastation before he finally came to a halt in the middle of an abandoned highway. Pain lanced through his bones, but he ignored it. He had fought Hulk before. He knew what it meant to go up against something stronger, and he refused to lose. Snarling, he forced himself up, his cracked ribs healing almost instantly. He wiped the blood from his mouth and looked toward the horizon, where Doomsday was already sprinting toward him, a force of nature, an unstoppable juggernaut of pure destruction. Blonsky dug his claws into the asphalt, bracing himself. All right then, round 2. As the two titans charged at each other once more, the city trembled, knowing that this battle had only just begun. The ground trembled beneath their titanic strides. Asphalt cracked, and buildings shook as Abomination and Doomsday charged toward each other with earth-shattering force. Blonsky roared, putting everything into this final clash. His massive arms flexed, muscles rippling like steel cables as he swung his fist straight for Doomsday's skull. He had fought the Hulk. He had taken on entire armies. He would not be broken. But as his blow connected, something went wrong. Instead of sending Doomsday flying, Blonsky's punch barely moved him. It was like hitting an immovable mountain. The impact sent a shockwave through Doomsday's body, but the monster didn't even flinch. It smiled. Then, before Blonsky could react, Doomsday struck back. A massive bone-covered fist smashed into Abomination's chest, sending him skidding backward. His clawed feet carving trenches into the pavement. Ribs cracked. Blonsky barely had time to recover before Doomsday was on him again, moving faster than a beast of that size had any right to. A second devastating punch cracked across Blonsky's jaw, snapping his head to the side. Blood and saliva flew from his mouth as he stumbled. Then, with unnatural speed, Doomsday's spike knee drove into Abomination's gut, folding him like a piece of paper and launching him skyward. Blonsky soared through the air, his massive form spinning uncontrollably. His vision blurred as he crashed to the side of a skyscraper, tumbling through floors like a wrecking ball before bursting out the other end, landing in a heap of rubble. His body screamed in pain, but his healing factor worked fast. He coughed, struggling to rise. No, I'm not done." But Doomsday was already there. The monster grabbed Blonsky's throat, hoisted him into the air, and slammed him through the pavement so hard the ground caved in, forming a massive crater. Blonsky gasped, feeling bones shatter. Doomsday did not stop. It lifted him again and again, smashing him into the earth over and over. Each impact sent shockwaves through the city. The streets cracked, water pipes burst, and nearby buildings collapsed from the sheer force. For the first time, Abomination felt true fear. This wasn't like fighting a Hulk. This wasn't a battle. This was slaughter. He tried to claw at Doomsday's face, but the beast merely swatted his hand away before gripping both of Blonsky's arms. With a sickening snap, Doomsday ripped one of Abomination's arms clean off. Blonsky screamed in agony, green blood spraying across the broken battlefield. He staggered, his body trying to heal, but it wasn't fast enough. Doomsday didn't let him. A bone spike shot out from the monster's knee, and with a brutal thrust, it impaled Blonsky through the chest. Blonsky's eyes widened. He gasped, blood spilling from his mouth. His legs gave out. He had never felt pain like this before. Doomsday growled, then lifted Blonsky's impaled body into the air. The Abomination that had once been a man, a soldier, a warrior, now hung limply like a broken doll. Doomsday tightened its grip, and with one final motion, it tore Blonsky in half. A massive shockwave erupted as the remains of the Abomination splattered across the ruins of Newark. His severed torso collapsed in a heap, his monstrous, reptilian face frozen in a look of shock and agony. His lifeless eyes stared into the void. For the first time in his existence, Blonsky had met something worse than death itself. And Doomsday simply roared in victory. Its glowing red eyes scanned the ruined city, looking for another opponent, another life to end. But there was none, because no one could stand against Doomsday.